S.R. Kirby was built in 1890 by the Detroit Dry Dock Company in Wyandotte, Michigan. She was a composite-hulled ship, meaning she had an iron frame with a wooden hull and was constructed with white oak. She was launched on August 17, 1890, although another source states that it was possibly August 24th. She was launched as hull number 100, and she was named after Stephen R. Kirby, father of the well-known naval architect Frank E. Kirby. Her overall hull length was 311 feet and a keel length of 294 feet, making her the largest composite Great Lakes freighter ever built. Her beam was 42 feet, her hull was 23 feet, and she had a gross registered tonnage of 2,338 tons. She had 2 decks and a cargo capacity of 33,000 tons. The S.R. Kirby was equipped with a triple expansion steam engine and had pistons which had bores of 21 inches. The engine was powered by steam provided by 2 cylindrical Scotch marine boilers, each of which had working pressure of 160 psi. Both the engine and the boilers were built in Detroit, Michigan by the Detroit Dry Dock Company. And the S.R. Kirby was the first Great Lakes freighter to be equipped with electrical lights, and she had a crew of 22. The S.R. Kirby was built for the Northwestern Transportation Company of Detroit, Michigan. She received her enrollment in Detroit on June 13, 1890, and her home port was Detroit. She set sail on her maiden voyage in June 1890, during which she carried the largest load of iron ore ever to pass through the Soo Locks. On April 16, 1892, after leaving Duluth, Minnesota, with a cargo of wheat, the S.R. Kirby was forced to return to port after about only 7 miles. This was because of heavy pack ice. Beginning in 1896, the S.R. Kirby towed the 352 feet long steel barge George E. Hartnell, which she would also tow for the remainder of her career. On the early morning of October 7, 1897, while entering the harbor in Lake Erie, Pennsylvania, the S.R. Kirby was actually blown ashore. This was initially suggested that if she was not freed quickly, Lake Erie would smash her to pieces. However, when she was eventually freed and released on October 8th, it was discovered that she had sustained no damage from the winds and being blown ashore. Another notable event in her service history, on June 27, 1914, the S.R. Kirby was actually forced to cast off her barge, the George E. Hartnell, outside of Duluth Harbor. This was because of a severe storm. The George E. Hartnell eventually drifted on to Park Point and was freed a few days later. On May 7th, or possibly May 8th, 1916, after loading a load of iron ore and bound for Cleveland, Ohio, the S.R. Kirby left Ashland, Wisconsin, and she was under the command of Captain David Girardin, or Giardin, with the steel barge George E. Hartnell in tow. At that time, the weather was calm. However, later during the day, a heavy northwestern gale began with the wind speed of around 76 miles an hour in Duluth, Minnesota. As the S.R. Kirby and the George E. Hartnell approached the Keweenaw Peninsula, the weather again became even worse. Around 10:45 a.m. on May 8th, as the two ships were approaching Eagle Harbor, Michigan, the S.R. Kirby was struck by a massive wave. She broke up and sank in about a minute. The Georgie Hartnell also broke loose and was picked up by the steamer E.H. Utley. 2 crewmen from the S.R. Kirby, second mate Joseph Murda of Chicago, Illinois, and fireman Otto Lindquist of Paquaming, Michigan, forgive me if I'm saying that wrong, survived. Murda was picked up by the freighter Harry A. Burnwind, and Lindquist was saved by the freighter Joseph Block. Joseph Murda recounted this event, and quote, "The steamer broke in 2 without a moment's warning. As the ship went down, which took up so little time that I could scarcely believe my eyes, cabins broke loose and rafts floated. I did not see any of the other men come up out of the forecastle, or forecastle, and while I saw some of them afterwards clinging to bits of wreckage, I believe most of them were caught in the forecastle and were unable to get out." End quote. Captain Jerdan's English bulldog, Tiggy or Tidgy, also survived and was delivered to Jerdan's widow in Detroit. Only 2 of the 22-man crew of the S.R. Kirby survived. The rest went down with the ship, or drifted off into sea and later met their end. After the S.R. Kirby sinking, her value came in at $125,000. It was suspected that she was heavy-laden or overloaded improperly and wouldn't have much of a chance of survival during the storm. Hence, other ships have also suffered the same fate. In June 2018, the Great Lakes Shipwreck Historical Society was conducting a search for shipwrecks off of the coast of the Keweenaw Peninsula. They had located what appeared to be wreckage, but were unsure if it was shipwreck wreckage. They returned to the site the following year to identify the wreck, suspecting that it might be the wreck of the S.R. Kirby. The Director of Marine Operations, Darrell Ertel Jr., and his team used a remotely operated vehicle to confirm whether or not this was the S.R. Kirby, based on the nature of the wreck. It indeed was the S.R. Kirby, and the discovery of the wreck was made public in July of 2019. Today, the remains of the S.R. Kirby rest in 825 feet of water off of Eagle Harbor, Michigan. Her wreck is completely broken up and strewn all over a large area. There are still several sections of the hull that show the iron frame along with her wooden hull attached. Bruce Lynn of the Great Lakes Shipwreck Historical Society remarked that the wreck of the S.R. Kirby looks like an explosion on the bottom of Lake Superior. The wreck of the S.R. Kirby is the second deepest shipwreck to be discovered on the Great Lakes and Lake Superior. She is behind the steel bulk freighter Scotiadock, if I'm saying that right as well. She was discovered in 870 feet of water, and tied with the steel package freighter, the Hudson, also discovered in 2019. Again, this seems eerily similar to what happened to the SS Benjamin Noble. Was the S.R. Kirby overloaded way beyond her carrying capacity load? And again, what boggles my mind that if she was being allowed to sail out, especially onto Lake Superior, where the weather can change very quickly, just really perplexes me how this happened quite frequently back then. I myself have been to Lake Superior several times, and when I have been there, I've only seen it where it's crystal clear, super calm, flat lake water. But I also know that Lake Superior can have very violent storms as well. But tell me your thoughts about the S.R. Kirby. I wonder if it was just because of being overloaded, although she also was carrying the barge behind her, the Hartnell, as well, so that had to have played a factor in her sinking possibly as well, with the wind speeds as they were and the rogue waves possibly. So But that will do it for this story on the SR Kirby, and I thank you guys so much for joining me again today on another story on Songs of the Great Lakes. Do keep an eye out for the next video to come in the not too distant future, and I hope you all are having a good time. Again, let me know what you think in the comment section down below, and if you think I've deserved it, a like and subscribe would be greatly appreciated. However, that will be all, and do have a good rest of your day or night. God bless you.